Hello, my name is Emilie, as just said, but I'm just gonna change the title a bit because I'm actually gonna look into our 4 biggest mistakes when it came to working with AI in marketing. So when I wanted to prepare for this speech, I was like, how can I kind of like do something else? I guess all of you have seen a lot of presentations, or at least seen a lot on LinkedIn, like people finding these use cases which just change their business from, in no time. I guess that's pretty normal to see. But what I want to do today is actually to look through like what were our biggest mistakes, or at least our failures, and how did we actually change these to actually get to that point where we found the right use cases and so on, and actually created this millions in revenue. So first off, however, I want to start with some stats. So in the start, when we started to look into AI, we found that 75% of all of the value which AI would create would be localized within marketing and sales, customer operations, software, and research and development. So obviously that was quite interesting for us because we are a marketing agency, so that's pretty much all we do. However, the problem was basically that we also figured out that 87% of all of the AI projects which were found out there, they never made it to production. So that was quite a lot of them. Nevertheless, we also failed. We did all the same stuff as probably you maybe have tried as well. We didn't really get going. We were stuck, I think. So what I want to do today is take you through the 4 biggest mistakes, going from 1, 2, 3, 4. Makes sense. From leading the way from 0 in revenue to millions in revenue. Firstly, I want to give a short introduction to S360. So S360 is a digital marketing agency which helps brands and retailers grow. We do this by bridging the gap between marketing, tech, and data. And we do this with 330 employees, which are spread across 7 different countries, 2 offices, and manage around 400 million in spend each year. So that's quite a lot, I think. But when it comes to AI, we are mainly focused in 4 different fields. So we look into how we can optimize feeds, so product feeds for customers with AI. Then we look into how we can optimize product pages and landing pages and so on by copywriting and SEO with AI. And then we have our creative team, which also looks into how we can actually scale creativity with AI by using it in different kind of tools, or by creating more images, or by creating video with AI and all of this. And then obviously we also look into upskilling and training sessions for different clients when it comes to AI. And then we have done it with some of these clients. So before we had all of these solutions, we had some quite big problems. So we're going to start with the first one. The first one is that we had the wrong point of view. So when we started off by trying to use AI, we thought that AI should be the whole solution. We thought basically that we could go into a tool, or we could try to implement it into our existing tools, and it should go from A to Z, and then it should be better than what we have right now. And that was just not possible. Like, as you can see here, like I could try to go into Midjourney and make a prompt and say, okay, I want the Grinch crushing a small candy cane with a hammer in a studio setting, and then I would get something like that. And basically, that's not really what I was looking for. I was looking for a much better image which I had in my head, and this is not exactly it. So instead of starting using AI, we were like, okay, we didn't get it, so we're gonna go back to our normal procedure. We're gonna go back to the manual way of doing it. And that didn't really lead us anywhere. Nevertheless, we started to thinking of it in another way. We started to see AI as an ingredient, as something we add into existing processes and something we add into existing tools. So this means that we suddenly could start at maybe Midjourney, Runway, together with Photoshop, and then have a much better way of implementing AI and also using AI. This means that, for example, if we wanted to write something for copywriting, well, then we would use maybe ChatGPT, DeepL to translate, Grammarly to check through the grammar, but we would still have a person sitting in the end to look it through. So this made us go from, for example here, from a poster to clip out the background and then end in Photoshop to put all of the layers on as we always have done. It could also be that we, for example, put on some motion with Runway for doing ads, and then going back to Photoshop or back to Adobe to actually add these layers as we always do. So these are just some of the examples of creativity or creatives which we have done with AI. And I think they're quite cool because they are actually better than what we did beforehand. And that's where we want to go. So we changed the view, but we were still way too ambitious. And I think, so I guess all of you have been looking into use cases at some point, at least with AI. And you can use this framework, for example, you can go and see, okay, what has a lot of effort and what has a lot of impact, and then you can localize some use cases which would be relevant for your company. And we did that as well. And obviously, if you find these use cases which are located in low effort, high impact, well, then please start. But mostly we ended up here because we wanted the use cases which were really impactful. We wanted to see something which we couldn't do beforehand. And we just didn't really get started. Because as Louis said before, there were too many risks. It didn't make any sense for us to start with them because we didn't really know the end goal, and we neither really know what to do with the legal part of it, and we didn't have the development speed to actually get started. So we tried to go 2 step backs and see, okay, what can we do with the low impact, low effort use cases? And we could do quite a lot. Because what about using AI for translating? Well, then we could, when we tried to use AI for translating, we could suddenly translate 500 product pages in less than 3 hours. Like that we couldn't do beforehand. And we could also start like adding more words to product pages, so we could do this to 28,000 in 5 days. Like normally that would take like a year. And we could also increase the clicks by optimizing feeds, like product feeds, which has like, normally product feeds could be up from 200 to 1,500 products. Like, so we could actually do quite a lot with AI by just like adding it to existing processes without building anything new or trying to find any new things which we couldn't do beforehand. We can just do it faster, better, and maybe a bit cheaper, which is a win-win. So now we solved that, the point of view, and we also solved that we were too ambitious, but we still had some problems with our thoughts about how to implement it, because we thought everybody needed to be an AI expert. And that was a mistake. So back to what, when I was presented, I was presented as a prior AI specialist. And the reason for that is that when I started in S360, I started by walking around the whole organization and saying, well, you need to start trying to use AI in these processes. But the problem was that I didn't really know anything about marketing. I didn't really know anything about the specialized field. And I was going out in the organization talking to people who knew everything about their specific field. And every time I met them, we would try to find common use cases, but they would have some use cases which were really relevant for their field, but not really relevant for AI. And I would have a lot of use cases which were really relevant for AI, but not really relevant for the specific field. And by that, we didn't really meet anywhere. So I'm going to cancel myself here. Because that was not the right approach. Instead, we started to figure out, okay, who of these specialists really likes AI? Who of these specialists really think that AI is interesting? And when we found these specialists, we thought, okay, can we give them all of their time? Can we allocate all of the time to these people? Can we give them the right tools and the right platforms? And can we give them the end-to-end responsibilities for actually like trying to create some new tools or trying to enhance some of the processes which we have with AI? And we could. So now we actually have one person sitting in creative, only looking into AI, and one in content, and some in SEO, and a couple of people in research and development. And that's just a much better approach, because these people, they love AI, and they're really good at it, but they also really good at their specific field. So, the last problem. So now we solve the people, we solve the problems of being too ambitious, we solve the point of view. So we should try to make these products and try to make these different tools, but we didn't really get there because we had the wrong framework. So we thought all the time we tried to build these solutions and this technology, we thought that it should be fully AI from the start. We didn't want to build anything which were not fully AI optimized. And that was just way too hard. That took way too many too many processes in the brain, you know. So instead we started to see, okay, can we maybe enhance it? Or can we maybe do it step by step? So can we maybe start implementing AI into some of the things which we would like to do? So maybe when it comes to creatives, could we start to do some of the creatives with AI? Maybe the video and then add the graphic layers afterwards as we normally do? Or could we do it with the category pages and then still have some content people sitting afterward trying to see if it was good enough? And how far can we actually get down that road? And can we actually get to a point in time where we will have the full AI solution? So what I'm basically trying to tell here is that you need to think of it as a step-by-step process. You can't get to the end point by the start. And an example of that is that we have built a quantum feed engine, which is basically an AI optimizing a feed. AI, I know I can't say it. A solution which helps people or help us optimize feeds for our clients. So a feed is basically like a product feed. So it's basically something where you have all of your products in, and then it goes directly into, for example, Google, and you can see all of your products in there. And they have a lot of data points. So they have some data points about like the color of the product, maybe like the height, the weight, like everything like that, and also images and etc. So what we did was that we started to see, okay, can we optimize the product data with AI? Yep, check, we could do that. And then afterward, could we optimize custom attributes? Yes, we could also do that. So we could, for example, add price index to this. And lastly, and what we're doing right now is, can we also optimize the image? So we did this step by step instead of starting with all of the solutions by one. So what I mean is that you have to think of what you're trying to create. Then you have to prove it. So can we actually get to the end point of this? And then you have to make it as a dummy version, I think. And then you need to optimize it step by step. So summing up, what made us go from 0 to a millions is basically changing our point of view, then focusing on the easy wins, then building a SWAT team, which are really good, and then making it all happen step by step. And that was what I had today.
Wow, Emilie, thank you so much. I think that was brilliant. And before I open up for questions from the audience, I'm going to ask one of my own. So I think AI, and maybe specifically generative AI, the last couple of years has been truly like revolutionizing for your field, right? For the marketing industry. And the question is like, how natural is AI tools for marketing professionals today? Like, is it a tool that everyone right now is like learning and trying to adapt to and trying to implement in their workflows? Or is there still people that are a bit more reserved?
I think it depends very much about like what kind of marketing field you're thinking about. I think when it comes to content creation, it's really key because you can obviously write a lot of words with AI quite fast. But there is also really like different ways of using it if you want to use it. Like, obviously everybody have seen some of these AI enhanced texts and seen that they look quite the same. So I think the problem here is to implement it rightfully and also make the right prompts. And then also when it comes to like, there's a lot of data in marketing and I think sometimes people overlook it a bit. But for example, in search engine optimization, like you can also easily use a lot of data there, and obviously all points where data is available, there's a time to use AI, and then especially creativity is really a field which is evolving right now when it comes to generative AI. I think most people have seen all of these videos out there, and they're really getting quite good. And I think that's going to be the key focus of 2025. Yeah.
Right. And a follow-up question to that is like, what is the most crucial aspect, or maybe your most valuable learning or insights for when it comes to like upskilling your colleagues or upskilling the workforce when it comes to adopting generative AI in a marketing setting?
Yeah, I think when it comes to upskilling, or at least when we go around to all of the different companies, I think a common question is also like, what about legal? Like, are we allowed to use, for example, creatives and images and so on in our marketing? And I think the really key thing to think about here is that, like, what you were allowed to do beforehand, like, well, you're still allowed to do that. But if you weren't allowed to, like, use models without their permission, well, then you're obviously still not allowed to do that. So I think, like, thinking about, like, you really have to start using AI because it's just like, it's booming, especially in marketing, and not be that afraid of misusing it.
Right.
But still obviously being aware of what the right thing is. Yeah.
Right. Do you have any other questions from the room, perhaps? If so, you can raise your hand. Yes, over here. Thank you. Down there, yeah.
Hi, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I should stay up, I think. I was just wondering, with all the new tools, with creating images and videos, how do you stay authentic with these generated images? How is your take on authenticity?
I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for the question. That's a really interesting question, and also something which we are thinking a lot of. I think when it comes to staying authentic, at least with images, I think you have to remember that all companies, or at least a lot of companies, are like selling some sort of product, and these products, like, they are 100% authentic. And if you can change the background of a product, for example, then you're still quite authentic, because obviously normally you would also go out, take photos of, for example, shoes in an environment of a beach, and that beach will be used for maybe 500 other marketing companies. So I think the key thing is here to kind of like marketing your products. Yeah.
Perfect. Any other question in the room? Do we have, yeah, one in the back. I see you.
Hello, thank you. With all of these developments and marketing and AI moving at such a quick pace, how do you stay up to date with all of the different developments?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And a really tough question, because obviously there is a lot of different tools, I think. Let's see. I think this slide proves it pretty well. You know, there is really a lot of, I think there's really a lot of different tools, especially when it comes to creating stuff like content or like images and stuff like that. And I think our point is that with the AI specialists we have, which are specialized in a certain field, like, they also obviously have a lot of interest in finding the best solutions. And they look a lot into like, okay, has there come a new tool for doing creativity, or has like doing images, for example, or has there come a new tool for doing some sort of motion in images, or has it become maybe better by using, for example, runway? So they are looking a lot into it all the time. But also, if there is a website called, I think it's Analysis Artificial. And that one is really good because they are made like running reviews of different models, and they are also doing running reviews of different platforms when it comes to creativity, and also like human-based reviews, and it's quite good.
That's great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for the questions. Do we have a final one? Yes, in the front here.
First of all, thank you so much for a great speech or presentation. So I wonder, when it comes to ethical considerations when generating images of individuals, can you say something about that? And this is a little bit in context of Coop, who was heavily or almost brutally questioned in social media when they did the same. They generated images of people in their, in their marketing.
Yeah, I think if you don't have the rights of the models to actually create anything artificial after you have taken a shoot with the model, well, then you should keep out of it. But for example, like right now, there's a lot of different companies starting to look into actually writing in the contract that they are allowed to create something artificial afterwards with the model photos. So there you will be able to do it. But I think generating models, like models with AI is, I would keep out of it. But I would still think about what can I do different? Like, can I change the color of the shirt still? Or can I maybe like change the background? Can I make some sort of movement in the clothing or something like that? That gets you quite a long way. And then stay out of like doing artificial models. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. And with that, we thank you so much for both your presentations and your answers. Thank you very much.